Okay, we're going to replace the impeller for the water pump on the Honda 150 on my boat. Start with you need parts. You can find a little bracket on the starboard side that'll give you your serial number, get the model number, and you can order those online or however you want to find them for Honda parts.
I got all the stuff I needed from boats.net. They're pretty good, and they've got good graphics and good support for picking this stuff up. Really, the main things you're going to need are the impeller itself and a new gasket's not a bad idea usually. And the paper gasket at the bottom of the housing is also something that's going to be critical, but the rest of the stuff is usually in pretty good shape and can be reused. Good idea to have a torque wrench and of course the usual tools. I'm going to have a grease gun available with some marine grade grease. And I'm going to have the Honda oil for gear oil for replacing on the lower end since I've got this thing apart. Good time to do that as well. All the bolts holding the lower end are 14 millimeter, and then the housing for the impeller pump are 12s. And a rubber mallet and some patience is also advisable for this. So to separate the lower end, there's 3 bolts on each side of the motor. Kind of match each other, and they're all the same size, which is convenient. Okay, now if you look at the bottom, you've got your trim tab. There's a bolt that holds that on, and then underneath that trim tab itself, when you pull that out of the way, there'll be another longer bolt that needs to be removed as well. That trim tab has an indicator on it to show you where you had it set. If that seems appropriate for you, be sure to mark that so that you can get it in the same orientation when you put it back together, and it'll be functioning the same way. Okay, get that little secret bolt out. I left one in on the side that was easy to get to because I'm going to drain the lowercase oil. Okay, and one little bolt's in there, so we'll take the plug out the bottom and let this thing drain. You want to take that upper plug, the fill level plug, and loosen it up too so that it drains more easily. Once you get that bottom plug out, you want to look at it, make sure that there's nothing, metal filings or anything that looks weird in there, and then go ahead and drain the oil out. This one looks pretty good, so we're good there. And then we're also going to observe the oil after it comes out, make sure that it looks used, but there's no water or foreign objects in it, and then it'll be good to fill once we get the unit off. Okay, well notice I've got the motor tilted up pretty good. That drive shaft is pretty long, so you want to have enough room for it to come out without you running into something with the lower end. I've also got that propeller off to make all this easier for me to fight it. And do not hit the fins on the upper end at all. Don't do it. It's tempting, but they're not strong enough to withstand repeated blows, and you'll fracture something. So just kind of patience and tap tap tap. You can see it's starting to come now, and just feed it out about maybe 50 pounds, something like that. So it's not light, but it does come out fairly easily. Success. You might want to rethink your footwear for this. So you just want to look inside, make sure there's no debris from the lake still residing in there. We've got the 4 bolts that we need to take off on this. The great thing about this motor in particular is that the gear shift is just a gear there. There's not a piece that comes up. There's a pitot tube, which is not used anymore. It used to be for the speedometer. But we'll just leave that on. And then you've got the little tube that goes up for the water up to the motor. So all that's looking good and clear. And so we can get our 12 millimeter and take off those bolts and get that housing freed up. Just a little bit of a tap and it should come off pretty easily. If it was greased on there, especially, that'd be nice. Gentle, gentle. Now when you finally get this freed up and you take the housing up, the impeller will come with it, but there's a little keyway in there, small piece of metal that will be freed up, and so you want to kind of make sure that that doesn't go someplace that isn't appropriate. So kind of keep an eye on that, gently come up with it, and then you should be able to find that little piece and save it for later. You can see the slot in the impeller that will accept that keyway. That groove goes down towards the gear body. So notice on the impeller the direction of travel on these fins, because that's important that you mimic that when you put it back together. You can tell if you turn the shaft on the motor, you'll see that the easy way that it turns is the way that those fins want to be, and so you want to keep that in mind when you put it back together. That little plate we're going to take off just to do a quick inspection. Gentle, don't bend anything. It has a tendency to want to get frozen up on those two little pins, but it should come off. It's a stainless steel plate, so generally it should be in good shape. Don't necessarily have to replace it unless it looks worn, but typically they're not. And just be careful with it as it comes up so it stays flat enough to get back on the new washer. If you're going to pull it off, you want to replace that lower washer as well. Kind of look in there, just make sure that everything's cleaned out is the main thing you're doing. And then once that washer comes off, whatever you got to do to and some light emery cloth to make sure the surfaces are all nice and clean as it goes back together. And while you got everything apart, doesn't hurt to take the little plate off, the intake plate on both sides, and then just make sure there's no debris or anything in there. Now's a good time to grease the gear there and the shaft where it comes into the seal on that side too, where you got it open. The marine grade grease in there can't hurt. Get the old impeller and check the housing, make sure there's no damage on that. Everything looks pretty good, so we can reuse all that. And grease that upper spline too while you're at it. Little marine grease on the plate, and then you can see that little spline in there. You got to line that up carefully, make sure it slips down on there, and now you want to get it to rotate in the correct direction is the key to success. A bit of grease on that housing plate too helps. And then slide it down, and then you've got to rotate. In this case it's clockwise looking down. We want it to rotate, and just a gentle pressure as you make that rotation, and it should key right in there as it goes down. Honda recommends that you check the water pump every year or 200 hours, and I've been replacing them every other year, every 2 years, 400 hours. And you can see this has been about 2 years and looks like it needs replacing. I put a little bit of grease on the threads on these bolts as they come back together, it being an aluminum block and salt water and that. You can use an anti-seize as long as it does not contain any copper in it. It would be critical, so it's safe to use the marine grease on these bolts. Just the thread. Don't get it on the bottom of the bolt or on the hole, because it won't be able to compress and you won't be able to get the bolt tight as you want to with the torque. Here's Honda's torque specifications on that. 25 foot-pounds on the big bolts holding the housing, and then 14 for that plastic housing the impeller. And you look up inside, you can grease that little gear area there for the shifter. See the hole where the drive shaft needs to come in and the pipe that's got to go in for the water off of the water pump. And just slide it all back together and bolt it up. Don't forget to add the gear oil to the lower end before you start it up. And then you want to test it to make sure that everything is working, that it's water's coming out of the telltale, and that when you shift it changes gears for you. A little duct tape flag on the shaft there so you can see it a little bit better going around. But that's it. Hopefully this is going to work out for you and you can do these maintenances yourself and feel confident that everything's working well. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind. That really helps me out. And